Welcome and welcome back to some of you. Thanks for tuning in to this fourth Breakfast Bite on digital citizenship. I'm Elizabeth. I am a music lover, not just mother, but music lover and director of CONCORDVILLE Families Europe. And I'm going to co-host this bite with Isabel. Isabel, do you want to say something about yourself?
Hello, everyone. Yes, sure. I mean, I can describe myself as a basketball fan and also penguin lover, and I'm a communication officer in CONCORDVILLE Families Europe.
And a big tea fan,
Oh yes, and a very big tea fan. I don't like coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, hello everyone, and just to say that we invite you to say hello, like many of you did already in the chat. The chat is enabled. It would be great also that you select all panelists and attendees, so other attendees can also see your message. You can, if you want, say your name, organization, or just where you're from, as you feel comfortable. And we will have a poll, exactly. So just to try out, you should have seen a pop-up window with a question. Just so we get a feeling who's out there and who's tuning in at the moment. So we let that run for a couple of seconds and then share the results with you.
The votes coming in. Suspense, suspense. Hello, Barcelona. Hello, Croatia. Couple more seconds.
Let's see, last bite, I think the majority was European NGOs. Let's see if this time it will be different or the same.
It's quite a mix this time as well, I have to say.
Yes.
Here we go. Shall we? Last votes? Last votes? Here we go. Ta-da!
Okay.
Can you see that? So, logically, lots of teachers. Probably a couple of the network of the eTwinning as well, I hope. Wonderful, thank you. That's great. So, quite a mix again, fantastic. Need I remind you that we launched this series on Monday. I think many of you have joined us over the last few days. We kicked it off with a video message from the Executive Vice President, Vestager. That video message is in your inboxes for those who registered before Monday, and it's also on our social media and website. And, you know, on behalf of CONCORDVILLE Families Europe, I have to absolutely extend a big thank you to her for her support and tireless work on all matters digital, really, all levels. So a big thank you. Now, before starting and listening to our speaker today, Isabel, any tips?
Yes, so we recommend you to be close to your Wi-Fi router if possible for a stable internet connection. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. You can see them down in the bottom line. We will look at the questions and then we will answer the questions also with our speaker Antonia. So please put them in there. For everything else, you can put it in the chat. We also monitor the chat. And you can, of course, we encourage you to follow us also on social media, on Twitter or Instagram, usually under the hashtag #DigitalFamiliesEU. I think now we're ready to go.
Fantastic. Right. So, well, this fourth breakfast bite on digital citizenship is focusing on the use of ICT skills in schools to promote democratic values. So to tell us more, we have Antonia Loncar. She is eTwinning Communication Coordinator, supporting the promotional and communication activities of its 800,000 users. She is a Croatian native, and as a typical Gemini, she's lived and traveled around the Mediterranean, landing in Brussels in 2018, still wondering why. She has been working on EU projects since 2013, and her passions include, here we go, comms, communications, coffee, and chocolate, not necessarily in that order. So there you go. Welcome, Antonia.
Thank you very much for this lovely introduction, Liz. And indeed, I would say it depends on the day. That the last, usually, I would say usually coffee always wins.
Yeah.
You know, but still, there are some days that other things are more needed. Thank you very much to you, to Isabel, and to Martin, and to all Team COFASI for inviting eTwinning to take part in this initiative. A big good morning to everyone. It's nice to see that many of you have been following these breakfast bites, because I've just said to Liz before that I as well attended the other sessions from your side, and just in view of preparing myself for today, and really I found them super motivating and inspiring, and I hope you will find today's intervention as well. And it really is a breakfast, it really is the most important meal of the day, so I hope you know that we will fill you up with good energy and some good ideas. And please, for any question, just as Isabel said, use a Q&A form. Thank you for filling up the poll. It's you know, I have to say I'm surprised with such huge representation of teacher, but I'm not, like, I'm surprised and not, because of course we are eTwinning is an educational project, so I'm really hoping that there are both some eTwinners, but as well as some potentially new eTwinners, new members. We are nearly 800,000, but you know, we are open to accept more members. I was thinking, Elise, will we run now the other poll?
Should we ask then? Okay.
Yes. So I would thank you, Liz. We will ask you just before we start, have you ever heard of eTwinning? And please, like, be honest. It's like, if you haven't, just say no. It's really no hard feelings. I'm not gonna be I'm not gonna take it personally, and it's actually better for me to know how many.
Be honest.
Exactly. It's a safe space, it's anonymous. So and also, I just to give you a tip, if you heard of twinning projects but not eTwinning, also indicate no, please, because these are, it's a bit a different story. So it's really, if you have heard about eTwinning.
Okay, there's a difference.
Yes, there is difference. There is an E with the reason, because we are educational twinning project, but a lot of people, also my colleagues, 57 yes, 43 no. So we have 50-50 representation.
Quite a mix. Yeah.
Quite a mix. It was a tight ride. Okay, super. Thank you very much for everyone to answering. So it's good to know that some of you are familiar already with it. But for those 43% that are not, let's take a dive into it. Let me tell you about.
Do you want to share the screen?
Yes, I'm just about to do that. Here we go. So
yeah. Wonderful.
So perfect. You can see it correctly, Liz, Isabel. Okay. You will. I can now only see Liz and Isabel. So for any questions or any technical difficulties, just jump in on during the intervention.
We'll be monitoring.
Super. Thank you very much. So basically, this morning session focuses not only on illustrating the twinning and talking about how the achievements and the things that have been done in the past 15 years that the project has been implemented, but also we want to really focus how the educational communities and projects like eTwinning can support teaching of empathy using the ICT skills. And we will dive into it a bit more in depth in the second part of my presentation, where I will illustrate you the story of one of our projects. But before I go there, and before I dive into this specific project and what it has made it so special, I want to give you a little bit of context because basically it's so I want to first and foremost share with you this, tell you a bit more about eTwinning to give you the context within which it operates, and what is it that it has made it really what it is now, what it is today, a community that counts nearly 800,000 users. This is a small celebratory gift we have prepared for our 15th birthday that we celebrated on Saturday during the Europe Day.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. You know, it's funny because we were joking that now we are like 15, so this is like, you know, adolescence years. Yeah. So far so good, but let's see what growing pains are we going to encounter from now on. So as you see, for us really in this gift, we wanted to really put crucial words, so community, recognition, collaboration. This is what makes eTwinning. So I'm going to talk to you now about a bit about eTwinning and how it is structured, how it is implemented. But I really want to strengthen that eTwinning really is a community, and it's really a community that keeps it behind, and it's the sense of the community. It's been so integral with it being on a digital platform that it really shows how, because eTwinning has always been digital. From its very inception, it always focused on digital collaboration and connectivity between the teachers from eTwinning countries. So really, for all of that time, the members of its community have felt integrated and connected thanks to the digital tools at their disposal. So as I said, eTwinning is a community for schools in Europe and for neighboring partner countries. It's an initiative that is funded by the European Commission under the Erasmus Plus program. Since its very inception, so 15 years ago, since 15 years ago, it has been implemented by the European Schoolnet, which is the organization and consortium of 33 ministries of education. We are located here in Brussels. But I want to stress that you will see in European Schoolnet, the members are 33 ministries of education, but eTwinning counts 44 countries, because eTwinning also includes the countries that are not necessarily members of the European Schoolnet, but they have to be eligible to participate in eTwinning, to register in eTwinning. You simply have to be a school staff, as it's written here, so teacher, head teacher, librarian, and you have to work in one of the schools in the participating eTwinning country. So unfortunately, if you are interested but your country is not a member, it's unfortunately not possible. So how does this work? So how do we organize our job? How do we manage such a big community, and how do we interact with them? So as I mentioned from the fully on, eTwinning has been a digital platform. You will see in a couple of slides ahead where I included a screenshot of our web page, which is our basically the public facing portal. In parallel with that one, we also run different restricted user areas, which is really where eTwinners, this is how we call the community of eTwinning registered users, can really interact and can really collaborate. They can collaborate in peer-to-peer learning activities, they can develop projects, they can also take one of our professional development courses. So there is a variety of the actions and activities that it's available to eTwinners for once they have been registered and created their user profile to our eTwinning portal. So as I mentioned in the slide before, European Schoolnet is implementing the eTwinning on a global level, and it's making sure that all the activities are coordinated centrally. So in the European Schoolnet, the team that is in charge of eTwinning, it's called the Central Support Service, and that's the team I'm a communication coordinator for. But we also, on a national level, rely on collaboration of our partners, which are coming from, as you can see on a screen, from 36 European countries, so well beyond the member states, and 8 neighboring countries. So for example, like Jordan, like Tunisia, sorry. So they are educational bodies and agencies and ministries in their country that their government has assigned with the dealing on the educational issues. They are authorities on their national level. So in some cases, it's a Ministry of Education. But for example, as I'm Croatian, and I know that in Croatia, it's an agency for education and EU projects. So it can be different. And they are the ones who really support eTwinning activities on a national level, but they also collaborate with us on a centrally implemented activities. And when you see and hear all of these, partners and activities, actions, it's all, I think, feels quite a project glossary related and can feel a bit distant, but it's really, even here, it's really a community, and very often I have found that these national bodies and national agencies really work quite closely. And there is a strong sense of community and collaboration even here, because none of them operate in the same realities. And this was particularly seen during this pandemic crisis, when in some of the countries, they already had basically for like, in a way, started looking towards the digital education. So they already had maybe experimented or had some online support for their educational activities. But we also received from some other countries like questions like, the school is closed, I don't know how I'm going to do courses for my kids, can you help? I've been a part of the community for X amount of time, so can you support us in a way? And we really tried, particularly in collaboration with these national agencies, to come forward to these needs of the professors, and especially in considering their particular realities. And what is really made a difference for eTwinners is also that the national agencies supported not only the teachers that were, of course, in eTwinning, but they also try to we as well try to expand eTwinning so that it can be as inclusive as it gets toward the teachers in the countries that are participating in eTwinning, as I said before. So really, it's I would like just to stress that as much as it is community of teachers and community of collaboration on that side, it's also community on the side of the partner agencies who operate and implement and are really often willing to share their expertise and share the tools and ideas, host one another when they are experimenting with different plans for development, where that some of them have implemented. So the community is really at our core and our essence. And as you can see in this graphic, I took occasion this morning to really use all of the graphics we developed for our 15th anniversary. We really wanted with this graphic represent what eTwinning is for eTwinners. And that it's really more than a platform, because it really allows for enhanced learning experience, for peer-to-peer learning, for professional development opportunities, and what it makes its core, it's student collaboration. You will see through an example of MYRIEM, which is one of our most successful projects, what does this practically mean and how this is implemented on a practical level. This is our platform. So this is the window towards our community. This is when you put in any search engine eTwinning, this is where you're gonna land. And depending on your country setting, you will most probably land in on an eTwinning on this page in your national language. Because we have this is our portal that it's available in 31 different languages. We have 44 countries that are members of eTwinning at this moment in time. As you see, nearly 800,000 teachers, more than 205,000 schools, and these teachers from these schools have delivered until now 106,267 projects and counting. When you land on eTwinning, and you can see also on the bottom of my slide, when you see you can find the address, so www.etwinning.net. You will get all of the information you might need, and all of the information similar to the ones I have now explained to you. But further to this is not only for us, a web page where we showcase how successful we are and all of the cool things we're doing. It is in a way, but also for us, it's a window towards our community. So during these times, for example, of pandemic, we really wanted, you cannot see it now here, but if you went to the web page, and maybe I can do this, if you don't mind, Liz, we can experiment with this. Just a moment. I will just now open it so you can see how it looks like, because during this time, we have really decided that we wanted, in collaboration with these national agencies, that we really wanted to showcase the stories of single teachers and how they have been coping with this lockdown, and particularly how they have been delivering eTwinning activities during lockdown. Because eTwinning is something that comes on the top of the activities for professors. They connect with it and create user profiles if they are interested to expand and learn more. And one would think that with the lockdown and this current pandemic situation, many of them would think about it like, okay, I might have to do many other things. I'm not sure if I'm going to participate in the project, but actually, no. What happened was that many of them actually found in eTwinning and its community of users really a way to even connect more with the world, if you know what I mean. So it was a way for them to show also to their students, we are in this together. It's not a singular experience we have been living in our countries. Other students in other schools have been facing the same, you know, we are in this sense of community and collaboration. We can go through it, we can help each other. And as you can see, really, we for example, there is one of the projects where we with eTwinning we can travel to Spain. Basically there are so how we discovered the stories of these eTwinning teachers is that they were referred to us, to the central service, from their national bodies, national ministries and agencies. We asked them to really search into their communities and tell us the stories of these teachers, because we really wanted that when you land on the page that you can really find different stories, for example, you can also find how other single countries are dealing on their national level, how they are using eTwinning to deal with the pandemic and distance learning. For example, here you have the latest article published, which is about Lithuania. For example, then there are some other articles, because we still continued with our regular editorial calendar, how, for example, integrating eTwinning into curriculum, which is something that during this pandemic has been even more put in a focus, because, as I mentioned, many of the teachers and professors use eTwinning as an additional support and platform to deliver some of the activities that maybe they could not deliver through the regular platforms that they were delivering their regular education through. What we are particularly, for example, this is a very cute article about a German professor who developed this like a small newspaper for his students. They are a bit younger students, and where he publishes and posts different activities they have been doing through eTwinning. It's actually there are two professors, and they are both German. So and they are talking about how they are integrating eTwinning, but also how they are coping with the school closure. This is one of our restricted areas that I'm going to come to just in a couple of seconds. And one of the articles that we've published, the very first one, I cannot, let me go back here. It's basically the article that we had from Codogno, from the teacher in Codogno. On this article, you can also see we have, this is the city in Italy where the outbreak of the virus started from. And we have had there one of our eTwinning ambassadors. So these are the eTwinning teachers who on a national level are extremely active in eTwinning, and they act in ways as ambassadors on the field. They support the national agencies in delivery of activities. And you can even see at the end a small interview that my colleagues have had, my colleague Christos and Marta, delivered with Luisa, with the professor from the school, and how she has been motivating her students, how she has been using eTwinning to deliver different activities, what are her hopes for her children, what are the next steps, and we really wanted to, you know, during this time that make sure that not only our community felt connected to this web page that we have built, that it's our pride and joy, but we also wanted to show to the general audience, like many of you could be when you land on that page, that you really see that what makes eTwinning what it is, it's really this community collaboration, its teachers, their activities, and their commitment also to eTwinning, to education, and to their students. So I'm going to now go back to the presentation.
So there's like different dimensions to this, if I understand, sort of teachers,
yes.
Teachers as digital citizens, so using online platforms to boost their education methods. There's also the way ICT, well, the way they're working with each other to use ICT to boost learning in their local communities.
Correct.
And also then potentially connecting their students with each other. There's different layers here. It's quite interesting.
Exactly. And what is cool is that you can really choose, you can dip your toe in different things and understand what works best for you. We have had teachers who have joined in, particularly for the collaboration opportunities. We have had teachers who have discovered them, step by step, because maybe they were, it's very funny, Alice, because sometimes we let our own sometimes imaginary fears block us. Like sometimes we would have teachers who would think, oh, but my level of English is not so good and I don't know, but I would like to develop a project with some I would like the kids from my school to meet kids from another school from another country, but I'm not sure. So then they take part, maybe they can observe and listen, because we have a huge, and I will talk about it in a couple of minutes, event platform where they can also, the eTwinners can hold seminars and different learning activities where they can share what their experience with eTwinning was. And so they can sometimes then, for example, contact the professor that has done an activity similar to one that they had in mind. And then they can, sometimes the professors can also have an idea for the project, but not know where to start. And then we have, for example, our project kits, which is the most successful projects, like is the MYRIEM, where they can basically replicate and use the skeleton that has been used for that project for their own projects to get inspiration. So it's really, there are many facets to eTwinning, and there are many things you can leverage on, but we always advise them to start. Some of them start too ambitious, but the best is like to start small and try one activity, maybe one project, be part of the group, try to see the activity until the completion, and then see how you will feel afterwards and how your experience is going to be. What we are really particularly proud of in eTwinning is that, and this is something that has been referred to us by many teachers, especially in the rural areas, is that really sometimes some of these schools really feel isolated, Sometimes they are, a small school on an island, and there are just a couple of, the kids are not even counted in hundreds, and, they cannot go to the land as often as they want, because there are no connections, there are not enough ferries in their country. And then these kids on this island can connect through this platform, and they can do projects with the kids that are miles and miles away, and work on a joint activities and feel connected with the world, So that's, for example, in one of the projects that was a winning project for us last year, the kids from different kindergartens helped develop a toy together. And then once this toy has been developed, it was sent to the manufacturer who produced it, and then the toy traveled to all of the different kindergartens and preschools, and the kids would each of the schools had to write which was a part of the toy that they helped to develop, So it was so cool when they would connect via video conferencing like we are today, to show and one to another what are the assembly parts that they developed, and how, and what is the name they gave locally in the school to this. So it's really, there are many facets to it.
Yeah, many levels. Okay.
Many levels. And so what are the benefits of joining? I think we just tackled them. Is basically that, so you can also learn about eTwinning just by landing on our webpage that I just showed you. But what we really take, what is the core pride of us is that once, so how does it work? You are a teacher and you know that your country is taking part in eTwinning. So basically what you have to do is, even if your school is still not registered, you can be the first teacher to register your school in eTwinning. Basically, you will have to create your user profile. And then once you create your user profile, you will insert there all of the necessary information related to your professional activity and your school. The national agency, I introduced to you a couple of slides ago, they are in charge of validating and activating your user profile. Usually this takes just a couple of working days. And once you're in, basically you have access to all of these different restricted areas. So we have eTwinning Live, which is basically your individual interface. It's where you upload your photo, write a bit about your school, write a bit about your interest, where you can access and message any of other nearly 800,000 users. It's also where you can see and enroll in the online activities and also search other teachers and professors to help you if you have an idea for the project, that you can, maybe you can start like emailing and discussing and saying, oh, we've, for example, I'm a Belgian, but I teach Spanish language and we would like to connect with the school in Spain that does, because we would like our students to really learn from Spanish kids on this tradition we've been producing in our schools, or sometimes these are very popular projects before like big holidays like Christmas. Very often we have different countries doing projects on how Christmas is celebrated in different countries. So there are, this eTwinning Live is your individual interface, is like when you log in, it's where all of this different information of your activities is available, both to you, but also to the other members of the community. The twin space, so imagine I've created my profile, I've logged in, I have, and I'm there and I decide I want to do a project on a digital citizenship, and I find Liz and I'm like, okay, I email Liz, I tell her, okay, these are my thoughts for the project. Would you be interested in collaborating? And she says, okay, let's have a chat, we discuss ideas and we say, okay, let's make this a project. Then we create a project in a twin space. So twin space is basically a space where the projects happen, where eTwinning projects happen. It integrates different tools at the disposal of eTwinners, including the video conferencing system, different links to the different collaboration tools, where basically me and Liz could implement different, work on different activities to make our project happen.
You should do a project on digital citizenship.
There are many to the many facets of actual digital
citizenship. You're right. So many layers. Yeah.
So, but
there's Ellen who's asking, is there a concrete example of how two teachers found each other and collaborated or helped each other on a specific project in a twin space? I think you just gave a theoretical example. I don't know, Ellen.
Yes.
Did you want
I will also explain it through when we go to the MYRIEM project. You will see more in depth.
Perfect.
We are just getting there 2 slides more. So yes, just to finish on this part, basically you also have, so eTwinning Live, your own profile, eTwin Space profile of your project, eTwinning groups. eTwinning groups are basically groups that are groups that gather people, eTwinners that have similar interests, that want to maybe talk and share ideas on the specific topic through a longer period of time. For example, one of our most popular group is a group about inclusive education. So basically that group counts around 1,000, maybe nearly 1,500 members. And for example, the leader is one of the eTwinners, one professor, and they really share and organize different activities, share updates on inclusive education, share ideas for the tools. So it's really when you want to, it can be anything, like that. There is inclusive education, there is a creative classroom, a group where they discuss different ideas and share thoughts on how to be more creative in a classroom. So we've
got one example here in the chat from Camille in Turkey saying that they have an eTwinning project about hate speech, another one about COVID-19. And they're sharing a lot, especially amongst teachers. But he was asking about, he couldn't connect with students. And I don't know exactly what the question is, Camille, but maybe I guess we'll find out more about connecting students via the project that you'll present now.
Yes, exactly, indeed, because this is a, you know, students are minors,
yeah.
and they apply to the different, they cannot create profiles, they can be invited by their teachers during the for the specific project, but then after the project has finished, their profiles are eliminated. For example, today you will see that I will share some of the pictures with you, but for the privacy reasons I cannot share the content that includes kids and minors and students, for the obvious reason. But the professors can invite their students, and for them then they have really specific profiles designated, but we usually prefer that it's the professors who are the channels of communication and also like they are a bridge to act on the project, and they are the bridge between their students. And also, so coming just to finish this, we also have a space that it's called Learning Lab, which is basically a space where we organize different learning activities, like our learning events, that they are the events that usually take place throughout 10 days, where our eTwinners can develop skills and stimulate ideas on different variety of topics. And last but not least, in this first part is, this is something I really felt inspired to insert after Martin's intervention on Monday, I have to be honest, because there was this interesting moment where you were discussing about who is in charge of safeguarding and defining the rules of behavior online, who is in like if it's the social media, if it's the government. And for example, for us in eTwinning, we really felt compelled to have something that we call eTwinning Code of Conduct. And this eTwinning Code of Conduct, it's available on our website. So it's publicly, so basically it's some sort of terms and references, if you wish, that you once you decide to sign up for, you in a way decide you commit to adhere to, and basically they are this code of conduct for us really ensures that that there is a mutual understanding and respect between eTwinners, and it defines some ground rules that keep eTwinning safe for all of the members. There are more specific and more detailed rules on the all eTwinning Code of Conduct, but these are the three most important principles that guide all eTwinners, which is to be inclusive, to not offend, and to not attack. Then they go also more in detail, for example, to not use eTwinning to promote personal activities and endeavors. For example, if you have a private activity and you want to promote, no. Also not to harass other eTwinners. If I, for example, now contact Liz for an idea with the project and she doesn't reply, and after a couple of weeks I contact her again, she doesn't reply, I can't really bombard her with emails. Maybe she doesn't have time, maybe she's not interested in the project, you know. So what is really interesting is that, you know, one would think, okay, it's common sense, yes, but it's not necessarily. And it's very interesting also here to see what in different cultures and different, you know, we have 44 countries, not all of them are European, to see how what would be, let's say, acceptable behavior online for different countries and different members of them. So it's we always come back to the code of conduct when we receive potential complaints, because brace you, we do receive complaints also from one eTwinners to another. Things can happen, and we can, you know, it's a huge community. We cannot control it. We try to have a look on the projects, try to eliminate projects that are talking about controversial topics, or that are talking about that might be offensive. But of course, it's by now really big, so we really rely also.
You try to moderate.
Yes, we try to moderate, but very often we did receive, for example, complaints, sometimes mostly related to some specific users that might have been rude, or maybe they didn't, yeah, that the interaction with them was not easy, and really then this code of conduct comes in handy. Any questions on this part before we dive into and discover Miriam? Any comments?
There are a few comments, to be honest.
Yes.
And we also have a technical question. Can everybody hear us? One person has lost the audio.
Oh,
Can everybody hear us? Maybe Aria, double check the audio. Thank you. Lots of yeses. Sì. Certo.
perfetto.
Grazie. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. So on the technical, yeah, okay, I lost all the questions now. Thanks, lovelies. You're the best. Thank you so much for helping. Look, so let me just take, before you tell us about Mariam.
Of course.
Look, I think start Mariam, and then if there were any questions in the chat that we didn't notice, we'll bring them in the Q&A at 10:30. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Perfect.
Super. Go for it
Excellent.
then. Do you need to share the screen with your presentation again?
Yes, you cannot see it?
So at the moment, I still have the website.
Yeah, same for me.
So
I'm so sorry. So just then in that case, because there were a couple of other slides, so then just
maybe
like this.
unshare and then share again with the presentation, because you wanted to show us the website, which was extremely helpful. I think now, so then if you share, but this time the PowerPoint, perfect. Wonderful.
I'm so sorry. I thought because I went to the presentation and there were a couple of slides more. So I will just, so well, we were there, so you know all of this.
Yeah,
perfect.
Sure.
So indeed, when actually Martin and Liz reached out about, when we started discussing about this eTwinning intervention during this conference, your idea was to also illustrate, of course, because this is what speaks about eTwinning, is one of the projects that could really relate about how to use ICT skills to teach empathy. It was really not, I mean, we have plenty of different projects, and I see some of the attendees are already eTwinners. So by all means, this is not no preferential treatment in a way. This the Miriam and Friends Citizens of a Better World is just one of the
we asked to hear more about it.
Yes,
because so it's in line with our inclusive societies.
Exactly. There were a couple of more, but this one really fitted the best. You know, I have to give this disclaimer, Liz. I have members of the community here. Like. So meet Miriam. Basically, Miriam is she's more than a doll, and this, as I wrote in this in a slide before, this is more than a child's game. This is a project about. Really, it's an educational program, cultural program, but also program that has this huge human aspect, and we will dive into it just in a minute or so. So Miriam is a doll. She has been created by a Tunisian teacher. And this doll, she's a representation, she's more than a doll. She's a representation of all different human values. So the values of love, friendship, brotherhood, equality, peace, and tolerance. And the idea of, so at the very beginning, from what my understanding is, because this project has now been closed, it kicked off in 2015, and basically, I think that at the very beginning, the Tunisian teacher, who was instigator and creator of the project, created a doll to teach this, to use the doll to teach the human values to her students. And then slowly but surely it expanded, the project expanded and basically included 10 countries. And really Miriam went on a trip around the eTwinning countries as a mediator who traveled between schools to spread values, to spread these values. So love, friendship, brotherhood, equality, peace, and tolerance among children and youth. This is one of the representations of Miriam. There are thousands of them on the project, but this is the official one that was used in the presentation. So the objective of the project was indeed to use ICT skills to develop commitment, to transfer the human values, and to foster ethos among the students. The idea was also that that Miriam would help kids foster relationship between them despite their differences in ethnicity, in religion, in culture, in a social economic background. And actually Miriam would help them enhance tolerance in these diversities and actually help them learn about one another and take basically examples of other cultures like something to discover rather than something to fear, you know. So the 10 participating countries were Croatia, Cyprus, Greece, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovenia, Spain, Tunisia, and Ukraine. The kids from all of these schools, really the age range was really wide. So it started from the preschool age, 5 until the 17 years old. And all of these students really included Miriam in their activities. You know, it was not like really the teachers from all of these different schools found a way to use this doll that might be, you know, after a certain age you might think, okay, but what are the teenagers gonna do with the doll? How they're gonna react to this? Will they think, oh, we are patronizing them and, you know, they're now cool? And no, but they found a way actually to integrate this doll and to make her in a way really a member of their school and their community for a time that Miriam was there, because Miriam was in theory traveling across different countries and staying in every country of these 10 countries for a specific period of time. As you can see, I included here, I mean, I have to say that for this as a disclaimer, that the quantity of material produced from these students is immense. And it took me hours just to read through all of the activities they had implemented, and really the creativity really sparked through. I also wanted to show some of them to you, but as you can imagine, it was difficult to find ones that were not included kids or minors. So I just chose a couple of pictures of their work. As you can see, one of these paintings says, diversity is one thing we all have in common, and let's celebrate it every day. I thought it really fits nicely with the COFASI breakfast theme, but it fits also nicely with eTwinning, and it's a nice message also during these times. Basically, so how did this work? So Miriam went on all of these. So basically, we had all of these countries that had decided to adhere to the project. And usually from each of the country, we would have one school that would adhere to. We couldn't send Miriam to all of the schools in all of these countries. She would still be traveling. Basically, she would arrive to the school, and then the students would basically, her role was to use this doll. She would be like a starting point to spark conversation about the human values. And basically the idea of Miriam was that she had two roles. The first one was that once it arrived to their school, they had the obligation to introduce to Miriam different activities their school was implementing, but also some of the typical, the things that typically represent, for example, their country. So they had to introduce Miriam a local community, but then also they had to take Miriam with them, for example, to the school play or to the game of their school, like I saw that they took Miriam to the basketball game of their school in one of the countries, and they would then basically the kids from other countries or from other schools in their country would ask, well, who is this doll and why are you bringing a doll to a basketball game? They would say, well, she's a representation of all of these human values. She's traveling across these schools from these 10 countries. So basically, the idea was that she was in a way this, I would not say peacemaker, because there were no really conflict among these schools, but it was mostly, the idea was that then it was not only, so you didn't only receive the doll in your school and then did some activity with the doll, you had to report on them. So basically, one of the planning that they did was that they created international calendar of festivities across all of the countries, and they included all of the dates that were important for that specific country. So whatever it is it a religious holiday, is it a national holiday, is it a cultural event? And then they would basically register and record what Miriam did to celebrate these activities. So for example, if she going to church or to synagogue or to mosque to celebrate this specific religious holiday? Is she taking part in a parade celebrating this national holiday, and what is the importance of this national holiday? And then once she did this traveling around countries, there were quizzes where the students were quizzing and examining each other. What did they learn? So what did the student from Cyprus learn about about this specific, for example, festivity in Spain? So this was the idea, and basically what you will see later what I mean by all of these activities and how they are stored. What I said before is that once you have access to our restricted areas, basically one of the things that it's integrated within eTwinning is also the video conferencing space, where we all actually encourage the students to meet. So this was beyond the video conferences became a new normal for all of us. And basically we would encourage, for example, that the students that sent Miriam, like, so the last country and last school she was to, they would then connect to and have a meeting with the school where she just arrived, and they would talk a little bit about what she's doing there, how she's doing, what she did last in the previous country. And all of these meetings are actually recorded and uploaded on eTwinning Live, on the Twin Space actually, and eTwinning Live. So basically that they remain there and they are stored there for posterity, but also for anyone who could be interested in a similar project and who would like to maybe be inspired by Miriam and take her on a few further adventures. One of the things that the kids did was that before returning home to Tunisia and before closing down the projects, all of the students from all of the schools in the participating countries met for a final gathering in the country of CONCORDVILLE. And this CONCORDVILLE is an imaginary country created by students. So as I mentioned before, they had different activities. They had, for example, this international calendar of activities where they learned and presented their country to Miriam and to the other children participating in the project. And they were in charge of developing this crossword game where each country had to propose different values that Miriam imparted on them, that she helped them discover, learn about, and understand. And then they would play this crossword together. And once this crossword has been completed, I here included just a small snapshot, and you can see the words like peace, freedom, art, compassion, Olympic spirit, citizenship. Basically, based on those words, once they have unveiled all of them, they created a CONCORDVILLE manifesto. And CONCORDVILLE manifesto is this ideal country, a community of our dreams beyond our borders. And basically, it was also a simple way for them to prepare to illustrate what they had learned through this project before returning Miriam home. And one other thing that they decided to create in order to represent really and show what Miriam has taught them, and I found this particularly moving. I included, if later we will be sharing the presentations, I included a link to it because it's publicly available. It's a story about a boy from Syria. And basically they decided that, up until now, I talked to you about how Miriam traveled, how the students collaborated, taught one another about different holidays and occurrences that are celebrated in different countries. But they also, what I really felt inspiring, and this is something that I understood came as an initiative also from students, is also to use this space to also discuss more difficult topics, because digital citizenship and compassion and love and friendship are values that are positive, but it's particularly relevant in implementing them in a moments of difficulty. So basically the students decided to create a story. They created this jointly, a story about Jakub, who is a 13-year-old Syrian refugee. And it's a diary that the older students wrote basically together. And the younger students were also involved in the project, and they made different illustrations in this book. And Miriam is, she visited also Jakub. So this is the also story of a child living in this specific reality, in this specific moment of time. And I really have to say, I think this is where this value of distinctiveness came for this project, because they decided not only to keep it, you know, on this beautiful story about this doll that went on a trip around the eTwinning countries and brought happiness and taught human values, but also something that could, they decided for posterity to also make Miriam travel to something that's also actual to the reality that these kids are also living with, where the kids of their similar age are in a refugees camp and facing completely different realities. So I really invite you to later to click on this link and see this story. I found it really moving, and yes, as often we adults can learn many things from children. And just couple of last information. So I told you about restricted user areas. We talked about how the projects are being implemented. We learned about the story of Miriam. So this is, I wanted to give you a glimpse of how does it look like. So as I said, so you are potentially, I saw a teacher, and you want to, you maybe while I was talking, you visited the portal, you saw that the eTwinning country, that your country is an eTwinning country. You decided that you want to create a profile because you might have found inspiration in Miriam, or you might have had an idea for a project for some time, but you were not sure how to implement it. So you will create your profile, and your profile is validated. So this is, for example, one of the restricted areas I talked about before. This is a specific twin space for this specific project. So what you can see here, so here on the top, this is eTwinning twin space. So this is the one of the portals where you will be basically storing all of the information and all of the activities you develop with your children throughout the project, to the course of the project. Here on this pages section, so this is a screenshot. On these pages sections, you can see how these professors planned their work. As I mentioned, there were 10 different countries, so they really had framework of activities that was really super fragmented and super in detail, because they had to make sure to understand who is doing what and when. And basically, these different pages represent the different activities. Here in Miriam, considering how big it was, it is quite detailed and elaborated, but sometimes when we have just to solicit a project in eTwinning, you have to be minimum of 2 teachers from 2 different schools, ideally from 2 different countries, but we also allow national projects. And during this specific time of time closure, we also allowed something that's usually we don't allow, which is projects in the same school. So 2 professors working on the same, or in the same school delivering a project together. This is really not a core essence of eTwinning, but we, as I mentioned before, many of the schools operate in different realities, and many of these realities were not ready to face the challenges that the pandemic brought. So we really wanted to come forward to those eTwinners and those countries that are members that might be facing these, and really open also an opportunity for the professors from the same school that might need a eTwinning project and eTwinning activities and platform to support their actions. So and then last but not least, on this part here, you can basically see I've included here the snapshot of one of the introductory pages on Miriam. Basically, it's a place where you will upload your students and teacher works. You will create interactive tools, share activities. So when I mentioned before that they would play the quiz, you can see quiz for partner countries. You would click on that page and you would find the link to Google Doc, and then you would play this game, but the results would be uploaded also in a twin space, because it's integrated. This document was integrated within the platform. So all of the activities and actions that you developed in your school and with your partners are stored here. And then every year we actually ask our national, the national agencies of education and our partners to help us nominate the projects that year have been particularly under the spotlight. And then every year we have basically winners on a global level. We call this a European, the quality label, but we also then have on a national level, the national agency can also decide to praise one of the projects that has been maybe initiated or founded by one of the within their country. So this is what basically the background and the back office of eTwinner looks like, if you wish, of eTwinning project. And when you decide when you want to meet, there is also a function for that, and you can basically organize a meeting, and you already have, as I mentioned, integrated in the eTwinning platform the video conferencing tool that enables you that. So there is no, if your school doesn't have it, it's not an issue. But also, of course, very often professors mention if they had created, let's say, a WhatsApp group with other professors, or for example, sometimes if the students are of an older age, a WhatsApp group also with the students and so on, and they include all of this here. So this is basically, this is where the magic happens, and this is where your you can really develop and bring further the activities. You don't, when you create a project, you don't have to have immediately all of this skeleton that's on the left. You start simple, and then you build up as you go, just as they did with MYRIEM. A couple of things that I wanted to share with the participants today that they might find interesting. So every year we create eTwinning book on a specific topic, because every year eTwinning explores a different topic and how it can be applied in schools. This means that during the year, we usually motivate the eTwinners to create projects on that specific topic, but nonetheless, they can always create projects on any topic that's of their relevance. There is no prize system or punishment system. It's just that, for example, this year we decided to focus on sustainability and put a particular focus and highlight on how sustainability can be implemented in schools. Nonetheless, every year, in line with this annual theme, we develop like an eTwinning book, which is a resource for not only eTwinners, but for whoever is interested about both eTwinning activities that supported the annual theme, but also some observations of why that topic is relevant for that specific moment in time for schools. So for example, 2019, we explored democratic participation. So I've included all of the 2017 inclusion and 2016 digital, growing digital citizens. So I've included the links to these publications. They are really, they are short, but really we try to make them meaty so that you can come really, we try to do a lot of surveys when we prepare them, so that you can really, when you put numbers in perspective, it helps you get an idea. So if you're interested in discovering a bit more on eTwinning and in schools and its activity and how it's supporting any of these values, you will find the links in the presentation, and also on our, everything is available on eTwinningNet. And we also have eTwinning projects, as I mentioned before, a specific section. You can, as I mentioned, browse the gallery of different projects, not only MYRIEM, where you can find an inspiration for your activity and also develop your own project with eTwinning project kits.
Great.
So that's all from my side. Happy to hear questions, comments.
Thank you very much, Antonia. Do you want to unshare the screen?
I have one more thing for them, but I didn't want to scare them.
Just because we have quite a few questions, and I want to give at least 15 minutes. But what? Sorry for interrupting. I thought that
no. It's not at all. Oh, just a moment. It is just, but I can share the link later. Let's first.
Oh, is it the Padlet?
It's the Padlet.
Okay, maybe the Padlet at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. It's something for your participants to do.
Exactly. I think let's share that with them at the end.
Yes.
a nice clin d'oeil. Yeah, I think there were just some comments and some questions, and I think there was a comment from one eTwinning user who was saying that she appreciated the privacy built in, or the data privacy, the data protection built in, because there are so many platforms out there. It's not always easy to choose, and there it's quite a positive experience of at least this, you know, as a concern, which is definitely addressed by the eTwinning platform. So that was more of a comment. Thank you for that
I want
comment.
to just build on this, the fact, as I mentioned in the first slide, we are an initiative by the Erasmus+, and we are an initiative of the European Commission. So we work really, they monitor really closely the implementation of eTwinning. They are involved in every step of the project, and we really make sure that we are always compliant with the GDPR and European Commission guidelines. And so thank you. It's nice to hear
that was one comment which I thought was quite interesting. And can I just say, a point of housekeeping, we have people coming in and out. We have around, let's say, between 70 and 80 people tuning in. But if you say hi, you can click hi to all panelists and attendees. That way you can show everybody that you're there, because otherwise your really nice comments are not shared with everyone and just us. So it's a thing I think you have to click. It's what Isabel told us in the beginning.
Yes.
So that's just a technical point. Look, there's a question. Well, I guess just a general impression from my side is that what I find quite interesting is that this project is a mix of, kind of both EU citizenship shaping and digital citizenship shaping, because of the use of digital tools to promote that sort of transnational thinking and diversity and respect. So in that sense, there's a kind of a blurring of both offline and online worlds in a sense. And it's pretty clear to us that, technology impacts the human experience, just like the human experience impacts right now. No, sorry, my daughter's with me. And human experience impacts how we use technology. So I think it's interesting in that sense, from my perspective. We had a few questions, and I will try and take them bit by bit. Yes. There was a question from Rosa in Spain, who is a digital formation, she teaches digital skills, but she's not linked to a formal educational institution. And she's wondering, can she still join the eTwinning community, or does she need to be linked to a formal educational institution? So maybe she works for a foundation, which is more like an NGO. So, just like our NGOs do a lot of this kind of stuff as well. I guess it's a question from the NGO community, to what extent can they be included in this or not?
I think that my understanding is that, so this is then mostly coordinated on a national level, but I'm pretty sure she can create a profile. I am just not sure, as she's not assigned to the formal education, if she's a member of an NGO, how limited her participation in the project could be. Nonetheless, she can try to create a profile, and then this is going to be validated by the Spanish National Service. I think in their case, I think it's a Ministry of Education directly. I believe she can create a profile. I think that there will be restrictions to implementing the activity, but nonetheless, she can have there, if this is something she's interested in, direct contact with some of the teachers that might consult or involve her on a specific activities. So I would advise giving it a go, and then she will receive more information by her national support service.
Yes, because I guess it's a question of partnerships, because there's formal education and there's non-formal education, and lots of the family organizations in our network provide all kinds of parental support, which fits more in the non-formal education. And in fact, we've got a question from Age Platform Europe, saying that it's very interesting, and the methodologies are transferable also to other age groups, right? So not just between children, but between all age groups, including 65 plus. And I guess this person is asking, have you ever thought of taking this kind of methodology to adult learning? That's the first question.
Okay.
And secondly, is it possible for an NGO, again, it's the same question as Rosa Maria, is it possible for an NGO, not school teacher, to partner with an eTwinning initiative? So that was kind of two questions.
Yes. So let me start with the second one because it relates to the answer I already given. So I think that in a way, what they could potentially do is that they could not formally take part in a project, but for example, if there is like some specific eTwinner or some specific school that's dealing on a topic of their interest, they could provide, for example, some guidance or some trainings or collaborate on some activities like from this advising part, from this advising aspect of it. But they could not be full partners because this is for teachers and for schools. When it comes to the adult learning, this is something we've, it's interesting. I'm writing this down to bring it to my team for our next team discussion, because this is something we've been hearing and we've been asked about. So let's say that one of the groups that we are now dealing with are teacher training institutes. So for example, the different universities that offer courses for the professors and teachers that are let's say the newest addition to the family of eTwinners. They have a specifically designed and dedicated activities. So it's my colleague who is like in charge of the pedagogical offer and monitoring for them. We call them the teacher training institutes. So my guess would be that probably some of these institutes could be preparing teachers also for an adult learning. We don't have at this specific moment in time. We aim really to the children during the preschool, elementary, and high school. These teacher training institutes are the ones where the age is the highest one, I would say. They are all usually over 18. But as I mentioned, they have specifically designed activities, and this is a new water for us. It's something new we are tapping into. But as you know, eTwinning goes with the times and reflects the situation that the schools and the educational society is facing. So as I mentioned, stay tuned. I don't have for the adult learning for the time being, no foreseen activities a part of these teacher training institutes once, but you never know. As you say, it's nice to see that it's nice to see that, you know, it's a that education is really lifelong long learning experience.
Well, yeah, and I guess there's the intergenerational aspect of things as well, you know, younger and older participants. Yeah, I think there's different dimensions that were raised in these comments from Age Platform Europe, who's tuning in today, and that they're very much interested in topics like hate speech, fake news, you know, different aspects of digital citizenship. And I think you said back in 2016, it was the topic of, you know, the big annual theme, right? So it's not new to the eTwinning community, but maybe things have changed quite a bit in, what, 4 or 5 years? And so definitely, you know, it's interesting. Maybe COVID-19 has brought that back in force, you know, in terms of the topics. There's a question also, a practical one. And I have to read this out to you because it's how do you overcome possible language barriers? So I guess this applies both to teachers and students. So there's this testimony saying, I know many teachers who might be very motivated to join or launch similar projects in an eTwinning context, but not all of them have good enough command of English or dare to use their English. And the same goes for the children. So the MYRIEM video conferencing, how was that in English?
But listen, I mean, usually the younger kids, they usually are still in early phases of learning English, and very often maybe they will come, you know, not in all of the schools, in all of the countries, English is necessarily the first foreign language you will learn. What we do then is basically, I would have to say that yes, majority of our teachers do have a basic understanding and knowledge of English, but so the thing is that what we usually then advise is that they pair up or have a support of a language teacher from their school, for example, who will help them to, they can when they report on their project activities, they can also upload things that are done by children in their local language. Like they were, you didn't see, but there were a variety of, for example, MYRIEM posters done in local languages, like in Greek, for example. So basically, what we always, this is one of the reasons why the platform is available to different, more than 30 in 31 language. What usually, so the language of implementation doesn't necessarily have to be English. It's not exclusive. It does help, to reach more and to be that there are some projects that are, for example, implemented in French, some of them only in Italian. So it can really be some of them in any other language. So it's not that you can, what we advise in that specific moment is then if there is an eTwinner teacher who is not really confident of his or her English skills, is to pair with teacher from their school, potentially an English teacher or any other foreign language teacher. And usually it's the teachers who during these video conferences are the ones who act as a bridge, especially if, as we were talking about before, especially if the kids don't necessarily, maybe they just still haven't reached that level in school of learning English. Maybe they are just kids, but it's funny, even here, as I mentioned before, kids teach us that really there are no barriers when you want to collaborate. This is why they do a lot of active and hands-on activity and prepare posters and prepare, because the symbolism behind it, it really reaches out to them and speaks to them. So, but as I mentioned, first and foremost, English, you don't have to implement a project in English. There are projects being implemented in different languages. So that's the first thing. And second, if a professor decides that he or she is ashamed or doesn't think that the skills are good, pair with a language teacher from your own school that will help you in collaboration with the other school.
That's a fair point. We also have a comment, but it was sent only to the panelists and not to all the attendees, which is a really fair point. This person says there is another aspect to this language problem. The positive side is that it gives language learning a context, a stimulus to learn a language.
True.
So I guess that's an interesting way to see it. What can be a barrier can actually be a fantastic opportunity.
Actually, for them, this is what they do. Like even in MYRIEM, you would have like, there was a part where they were writing, I think, how these different values, how they are said in different languages, in each of the languages of the, so, kids tend to have more ideas sometimes, I believe, than we see problems, they see immediately solutions. As I mentioned, like even
it's true, kids are so resilient, so resilient, and teachers as well. They're on the front line. Yeah. They're on the front line and doing an amazing job. I have two little comments before maybe you can take show us your Padlet. Just, I guess, one was coming back on your point about rural isolation and how it helps connect people. That's really interesting because, there's quite a debate about, infrastructure in rural areas, broadband, this and that. So that's more of an infrastructure issue. How can we ensure that everybody, including, and teachers and schools in rural areas have the means to connect? That's more of a broad macro reflection. But secondly, how it's amazing ultimately how ICT can really help foster connections despite that kind of isolation. So I thought that was quite an interesting example that you gave us of how the eTwinning platform can be used. There's also a question that I have, because my husband asked me this morning, should digital citizenship be taught in schools? My daughter is 9 and she's being taught she's being taught citizenship values, respect, diversity. To what extent should children be given the tools and critical thinking to shape the online world? That's a question from me to you. And then there's a last question, but maybe I'll put it to you after.
Okay, so this is a very, $1,000,000 question your husband
Sorry,
has.
I have to put it out there.
No, of course, I understand. So this was something that we really explored in our last year's theme, democratic participation in schools, as well. The thing is that, it's I think that, and this is something that this current situation with COVID and pandemic has shown, that there is really a need to rethink how we live and how we teach both ICT and the society in general, because you know the kids these days they go to kindergarten and maybe, well, not maybe kindergarten but preschool, and they maybe have mobile phones, you know, because the parents have to be able to reach them. So they have been brought up already with the technology as a, I would say, essential part to them. I believe you have a colleague from European Schoolnet who is giving a presentation about Sabrina from Better Internet for Kids, and she will for sure talk more about it in one
tomorrow.
Exactly, tomorrow on her aspect, and exactly very often it's sometimes even the teachers tell us that some of the tools they didn't know that the kids actually showed them that this wasn't a possibility and that they could do this and that they could interact this way. So as I mentioned, so this is why I also included the slide on eTwinning code of conduct, because it will be more and more important also to realize and start implement these values that we are teaching kids, like respect. So respect is online, on site, in person. It's a universal human value, but we will just have to simply give it a different context of online. So this in the 2016, when they were also exploring growing the digital citizenship, growing the digital skills for the digital citizenship of eTwinners, this was one of the points that was made. And actually eTwinning, for those, this is now going to sound, I'm like self-praising eTwinning, but for those schools that have implemented it, really they saw how much it could support them, because many times, you know, eTwinning started 15 years ago. So at the very beginning, not the ICT reality was not common. It was not common that every school has necessarily a computers of a modern generation.
Still today.
Not even today, exactly. So it really showed how important it is to integrate it, and even more now when the schools are moving more and more online, because I believe that the future will be one blended education. Especially if we are going to have to live in a different health circumstances, and how you teach them, for us in eTwinning projects, is really always going back to the rules of the code of conduct and what we want the platform to support and help with, and what are the behavior that we encourage and what are the ones that we don't encourage. It's very clear for us. So it's something that reflects throughout all of the platforms, all of the areas, is really be inclusive, be respectful, don't attack, and search for a common joint points of collaboration. So if this helps to understand in a way, and of course this will have to be supported also by national educational systems, because eTwinning is an Erasmus Plus initiative.
I mean, that's the thing. The resources are not lacking. It's like the comment in the chat to all panelists and attendees from Elizabeth, you know, the resources are there, but the schools aren't maybe always ready to integrate digital citizenship into regular curriculum because it's still seen as separate. But I think, in a sense, your project shows that it's not separate, you know, that it can absolutely be combined, you know?
It's really funny how, for example, I still find a bit outdated how ICT skills are taught at schools. Like, you are teaching to these kids things, and I mean, they have to know it, of course, but do you have to really spend so much time on this part? Like, these kids already know. They've grown up, you know, some of them have grown up with visiting their grandparents online, because maybe grandparents are living somewhere distant. You know, they can teach you actually, because they are more up to date very often than we are, because as I mentioned, for them it's like an extended part of them, you know.
Maybe the intergenerational potential for learning is huge.
Exactly.
As pointed out. Look, we have one last question before you can wrap up with the Padlet. Is there a possibility for the students to stay in contact, or does it only go through their teacher? That's the question. Is it possible for the students to launch a project, a peer-to-peer project coming from children? Now, you already answered that question to a certain extent with the whole point that they cannot create profiles, but children are absolutely you know, we try to foster their participation in so many ways while protecting their privacy. And if there was a way to try and connect them peer-to-peer, it could be really quite fascinating. So that's a question from our president. And the last one to wrap up before you can then show us a Padlet.
Yes. So basically, as Liz, you rightfully noted, in a way, the answer to my question was also before.
Yeah.
This is something we've asked very often because, you know, also teachers sometimes tell us, you know, we have these kids like, and maybe 10 of my kids want to create projects, and, you know, I have to go for each one of them and create projects, and it's, you know, it can be a bit tiring, you know. So the thing is that we really, so the professors can create a profile for the students during a specific period of time, which is usually during the project implementation. They usually can stay in touch. They are not, once the project finishes, it's up to them how they are going to continue interacting. And I know very often that they create WhatsApp group, especially with the older students. They exchange Facebook details.
So, so they stay in touch then maybe beyond the platform.
Beyond the platform, for sure. For the students, we understand, and it's really funny because this was one of the questions also that was raised to us also during the annual conference, how can we encourage the students to create their own projects and activities. But the thing is, it is a community for schools and community for teachers. So we really rely.
So they're the starting point of all of this. Because you've got lots of interest from so many different sides here beyond the teaching profession, as you can see. So it's really quite interesting.
That's really good to see and to know. I'm really happy.
Look, do you want to sort of wrap up before then Isabel concludes as well with, you know, just a note about the next bites? But if you can, I think you wanted to give us some homework.
Yes, you know, it's an educational project. I cannot leave you without homework, guys. I'm sorry. You know, it's that part of the class. We had fun. We laughed.
Bring it on. We like homework. So are you going to share the Padlet link with us in the?
Yes, so I will share, yes, that's even better. Let me just, so I created this Padlet really for you to share. I really want to hear from you. I mean, it's super nice that we have the, and thank you, Liz and Isabel, for collecting questions and comments, but I also want to hear a bit of your thoughts. So I will then just go to the, so I will, all panelists and attendees.
So be sure to select all panelists and attendees.
So here it is. So this is, I created this, the Padlet that evolves around 3 basic questions. So you can reply to 1, you can reply to 3.
I'm clicking on it as well. I'm going
Super.
in.
Do you want me to share the screen briefly?
No, it's okay, because we have to wrap up. So I think as long as everybody has the link.
Yes.
We might also put it on our webpage, can we?
Of course, please go. Yes. So basically, there are 3 questions in relation to the presentation that I've just given that I thought could, you know, encourage.
That's nice. That way we can digest your presentation and maybe share some impressions.
Exactly, and it's as you see, I called it "Go Beyond the Like" because I believe that very often, you know, when people hear ICT skills in teaching empathy and human values, they just think of, you know, all of these challenges that are present on the social media. Oh, share this if you want to support this activity. So basically, I wanted that we go beyond the like and we really think of the wider context. So I have 3 questions for you. First one is what you think after all of this presentation. What is the role of educational platforms like eTwinning, but not only, we are not the only one out there, in the future of social learning? So in how can these type of projects in future support empathy and collaboration and cooperation? Then the second question is, can ICT support teaching about empathy and how? So think outside the social media, really be creative and think of all the different ways you think that ICT tools and skills can support teaching about empathy, but not only to the students and to the minors, but also, as we mentioned before, also to the adults, to the really how how can we make it integral to our activities? And the third question is, what is the one action of good deed Miriam has inspired you to do? So what
I like
will
it.
be the next?
People are already feeding in their ideas. So I'll definitely think about that throughout the day. And it's a nice way to stay in touch. So
Exactly, exactly.
thank you
So
very
that's all
much,
from my
Antonia.
side. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Antonia, for taking the time and to be here, and also for all the participants who tuned in. I think in general we were about 70 or 80, so that's really great. And tomorrow, there we have the last one of the week, but not the last one in general. There's some more next week. And tomorrow we will talk about hate speech online. So that starts again at 9:30. You can just use the same link because you're already registered. So hopefully we see some of you there. Otherwise, we can continue the discussion also on our social media. Okay, so
Fantastic.
that's all. So see you, maybe some of you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Antonia. Have a great rest of day. Bye.
Bye.